because of COVID. But we know the needs for investing are still there. And especially now with COVID, the needs have actually increased. And we need to continue with the conversation. And the whole idea is basically to connect investors, largely from Europe, with business people in Africa. So we are here to continue that conversation. We have special guests who are investors and also high-level business people. So the investors largely coming from Europe are interested in knowing the needs of the African market, both in terms of investing and also in terms of trade. So we get to continue with that conversation. And our guests this evening are Richard Ngatia, who is the president of Kenya National Chambers of Commerce, who is also a businessman. We have Benjamin Haas, the CEO of Startup Fund, who is planning to set up an investment fund, microloan in Kenya. We have Claire Dawai. She's the CEO of Sub-Sahara Group of Entrepreneurs and one of the key partners for the Invest in Africa conference. We have Kate Kibara. She's a business lady leading a company called Kids Organics. We have Marco Resman, also one of the key partners in the Invest in Africa conference. He's the CEO of Smes Emerging Markets, and their core work basically is to conduct research before investors set up business. Of course, we have Dr. Simone Santi, my friend from Mozambique, Italy. He's an investor in Mozambique. We have James Moro. He's International Director of Prefco Microfinance based in the United Kingdom. We have Wasim Tahir, who is a strategist finance sector, CDC Group. He's an investor based in the UK. And we have Anne Gaidi, who is the CEO of Rigo Groups. She's a moderator for this debate. We had Daril Mohammed from Somalia. He cannot make it, he's unwell, but he'll join us in the next discussion. So what do you expect from this meeting? We'll have presenters based on the topics that the moderators will take us through. And we hope to continue these conversations. We'll have 3 more webinars before the conference in June. We had planned to have this conference in March, but because of the new wave of COVID, we have moved it again to June and hope to be able to bring all the players together, the investors and businesses, to cut real deals when we meet in Amsterdam in June. So welcome, thank you very much for taking your time, and let's have a productive session. Thank you very much, Anne. I think you can take it from there. Thank you.
We can't hear anything.
Can't hear.
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. I apologize again. So thank you very much, all of you. Like I said, I really wanted to start off by thanking John Carragher for starting us off on this very important webinar, because I think it's about time we start talking about investing in Africa and not only about aid. So it's very good to know that there are investors today and also business people who are very interested in this session. So again, my name is Anne Gaita. I'll be moderating today, but I want to start off by thanking all the speakers who have taken their time to come in and talk to us about what they think they need to do in regards to investing in Africa. So I won't take so much of your time. I'll go right in because I do see some speakers have joined us. So I want to start off today with Mr. Simon Santi. Mr. Santi, you're the president and investor at the Leonard Group, which is based in Italy, Ghana, and Mozambique. So what I wanted you to tell us today, because you're an investor, what is it that you do at the Leonard Group, and what do you think about investing in Africa, specifically around the challenges and opportunities faced by investors like yourself? I know there are so many opportunities in Africa, but people say there are challenges. From your perspective, having been on the ground, what do you think are the challenges and opportunities? Go ahead, Mr. Santi, and please share with us your insights.
Oh, thanks a lot. I'm asking to be allowed eventually to share the screen. I'm not available at the moment. See if the technician can make me available. I have a presentation.
I don't know.
Yeah, but
all right.
Yeah, now I am. Yeah, now I am. Okay, very good. So yeah, just to introduce a little bit which is our opportunity, and thanks for the question and thanks to invite me. My focus will be to start with some opportunity, especially in the energy sector, and the impact of COVID in business in Africa, as is the general theme, especially in southern part of Africa, SADC area. That is the one that we know better, and we are better positioning as a group of company. So I want to introduce a little bit, if it's possible, myself. I'm president of Leonardo Group. I founded 15 startups in Africa. I'm very proud to say that 100% manage of local persons, so local human resources, 100%. So I'm a senior economist specialized in Africa during my study and starting work in Mozambique in '96 as the first country where I was based and was traveling on SADC. Actually, I was appointed from 2008 as honorary consul of Mozambique, from 2015 as the president of Mozambique and Italia Chamber of Commerce, and president of European Chamber of Commerce in Mozambique, and the delegate and president of the section of CTA, that is umbrella organization for energy, oil and gas, and mineral resource. Basically, the group, just to give some figures, invest and support more than 1,600 small medium company. The more focus is oil and gas, renewable energy, agribusiness, and logistics. And it became in some of the country a kind of desk to support, also in collaboration with the entity that support the company, as IPX, as CDE, that is the Center for Development of European Union for Africa. And since 2001, we also represent the Confederation, Empresarial Confederation of the Community of Businessmen of Portuguese-speaking country and African business country. So this is some figures. We create more than 4,000 new jobs. We manage 30 million projects. We sign agreement with different university. And we have a lot of projects that is in corporate social responsibility, also founder of Afrilanthropy that is based in Luxembourg and support a small medium company as having social impact, and some female association. So this is our presence. Our presence as a main headquarters is Maputo, Mozambique, but we are in the north and we are in other countries. Now we are working a lot in South Africa, in Namibia, and a little bit less in Angola and Nigeria. I will speak about that. So this is a picture that is quite sensible in this moment. What was the big problem of COVID in 2020? The COVID basically changed completely the trend of oil price, but not only oil price. Basically, the 80% of the commodity that was supporting the economy of Africa was basically had a very big impact from the COVID. Why? Because they stopped traveling, everybody stopped traveling, everybody stopped eating some product, everybody has stopped consuming some product, but especially the transportation. So actually we are full of vessels in the world that are stopped and they cannot transport because it was for the COVID and the demand. So just to give an example, China market, that is a big market, is full of tank farm that is completely full, as not demanding new energy. So if we consider then the African market is basically based on export economy. So we are export raw materials, carbon, coal, gas, oil, and is an economy based on export and import duty economy. So that was a big change, and this is what happened. This is what happened this year and the last year, and probably will be the effect for at least other 6 months. So if we consider the mega project, as we be focusing the mega project of oil and gas and energy, just if you see a list, in the red list is the project that now actually are in standby. Why? Because when we consider in the stock market that company as ExxonMobil, for the first time in their life, was a negative in the stock market, and when we consider that this big company operator as a negative in the stock market, they are reviewing the capacity of implement the project. And now they are reselecting the project. When they are reselecting the project, the first thing is to put the project in standby and try to be more competitive in the cost. So trying to force the EPC contractor to reduce the cost in order to justify the project ongoing in a market that is completely another market respect a couple of years ago. So that's why, just to give an example, the 7 LNG train in Nigeria, it was in standby. It was signed the contract, but it was in standby. So it's supposed to be Saipem, one of the APC contractor, but is in standby. So the Tanzania LNG liquefaction plan is in standby as well. It's around 30 billion project is in standby. And so other projects, as for instance, the pipeline that has to connect Tanzania to Uganda, that is a big, huge pipeline, is still in standby. Some of the projects, fortunately, was not standby. As in Mozambique, we have the LNG plan made by Total that was awarded before the COVID. So in 2019 was the FID, so the final investment decision, and now is running as we are more than 5,000 people working in, and we are increasing an investment around 30 billion. So this is a big project that is coming. It's one of a unique projects that are going, and also the floating LNG that is made in Korea, it will come in 1.5 years. It's on time. So the COVID, when the project already started, affect for maximum 6 months the mega project. So I want to go to what is the key to develop a real economy. So unfortunately, some example about Nigeria, Angola, it works also to the new country that has energy and raw material to change the mentality and to change the strategy. So the diversification of the economy. We cannot be a country depending on one items. We cannot country depending on exportation. We have to invest in agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, and also some other sector that can boost from the energy sector. But also we have focus, and this is a signal for a sign for the government and push the government to put in domestic gas. Africa is a big continent, is exporting energy, but is not using energy because of lack of transportation and also because of lack of transforming. So gas to power, oil to power, coal to power. This is the key issue to transform an export country in a manufacturing country. So to put more value added in the country and export some that is semi-facturing or factoring at all. So we are now discussing every day in local content versus competitiveness. The big companies say, okay, the local companies are not competitive, but in the same time, we have to have a local content that force, in some sense, the company to grow at the industrialization of the country. So that's why, to give a couple of examples, the two mega projects in Mozambique, Area 1, Area 4, Total and Exxon E&I, they have, because the government has to have 2.4 billion and 3 billion that has to be spent with the local register and local indigenous company. This is a key. I believe that the key is not the law, but the key is negotiating with the big operator and APC to force a part to invest and use local company. This is just to give an example what it means. In the first line, that's the big oil operator. So they own the blocks, they invest. In the second line is the APC, that are big company that has no biggest APC in Africa, but as international one that manage engineering, procurement, contracting, and investment. And then that's T1, T2, 3T. In this part, so in the last one, this is the client where the local company can work with. And this is the experience that we are having, and we are supporting also the local company to invest in. Just to give an example, again to Mozambique, okay, we have the Total is going with at least 3-4 months of delay. We have also the floating LNG coming with at least 6 months of delay, but the impact, the real impact is in 1/3 of the big project, because the Exxon project, Mamba Area 4, is in standby and will take a decision in April. So it means that the mega projects are going, but some of the projects are taking a decision. This is the experience that we have. This is the company that we work for. Our group of company is focused in investing ourselves. We are doing agricultural production, we are doing tourism, we are doing logistics, and we are doing services for oil and gas. When we say services, it means design and implementation of local content plan, and to help the local company to work with this giant. This is the key of the future. This is the key of create real employment and the real value in the country. And now we're working a lot in South Africa, in Mozambique, in Namibia. In the future, we will start again working in the country that now they are in standby, as Angola, Nigeria, and unfortunately Ethiopia, because for the condition of the war. So thanks a lot. And if this is my contact, if you have any question, please, I'm here waiting for some question or eventually some email.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Santi, for sharing us what you think are the investment opportunities in Africa. You mentioned really about major projects, because sometimes people think that Africa is only small projects. So you've talked to us about the opportunities in oil and gas, in agribusiness. There's so much need for power and infrastructure. I mean, there are opportunities on the ground. And I'm very glad to hear that you've been in Africa since 2001. So you are an early starter, so people just have to catch up with you. But you're showing us that you can actually make money in Africa and still impact the lives of people. So I really like that presentation that you did. You also were very clear that COVID has affected the world and it has affected Africa. So yes, there are some projects that are on standby, but doesn't mean they are closed. It just means that it will happen at the right time as we navigate this pandemic. But you are very clear that African countries need to diversify their economy. That is very true. Even as investors, you need to diversify your investment portfolio, which is what Leonard Group has done. So thank you for that. But what I will do, because of time, what we'd like, and for all of you in the audience, if you could just write down your comments on the chat or your questions on the chat. And if it's a general question, just write it. Or if it's very specific to somebody, write it down, so that we will then be able to ask those questions at the very end, once we give all the speakers an opportunity to share their opinion. So again, thank you, Mr. Santi. And I will go ahead and now talk to Mr. Benjamin Huss, who is someone that I got a chance to meet a while back, and we had a very interesting conversation around, you know, investing in Africa. So again, Mr. Huss, I really want to talk to you because you are a chairman of a startup fund, right? So you are really on the ground in Africa looking for opportunities. But you're German, right? So maybe tell us more about your startup fund, what it is, the opportunities that you're looking for in Africa. But I would also like you to share your experience, because you're German. Before you came to Africa, what was your experience? What was the picture that you had about Africa, and what surprised you when you came to the ground and saw the abundance of opportunity? If you could share that with us, and also what your expectations are as an investor. What do business people in Africa need to know, what your expectations are? And also maybe the last thing you can talk to us about is the economic sectors. So Mr. Santi told us about oil and gas, he told us about agribusiness, he told us about transport. But for you, because you're a startup, I'm assuming you have a different sector that you're focusing on. So if you could just share with us your opinion about investing in Africa from the lens of a startup fund. Welcome, Mr. Haft.
Yes, thank you, myself. Thank you for having me tonight. Yes, as you said, I'm a German entrepreneur. I have been doing business in Kenya and East Africa for the last 1.5 to 2 years. Basically, what we do is we have a private-owned foundation which is supporting startups in the East African sector. We support them with more than just funding. So for us, it's key that we not just give money, we try to do more. So we try to create some kind of startup ecosystem around the startup. So we provide them with skills, with network, of course also with money in some way, but also with the access to the European market. So this is basically what we try to do at the moment. Of course, there is a big demand for funding. So we do microloaning, but also bigger investments, and to support small SMEs and try to help them through this crucial time. And you also asked me about my experience with the African market and maybe the picture I had about the African market before I even came to Kenya first time. I mean, I can see there's also some other Europeans here around. Maybe they can recognize what I try to describe the picture we have in Europe. It's basically a picture which it's drawn from NGOs. You have several TV productions. You have, especially in Christmas time now, they're trying to collect money for their NGO work, and all what they tell you is that they try to draw a picture about poverty and starvation. So this is basically the picture you get from the African market. And obviously we all know that that's not the right picture. It's a continent of opportunities. And this is something, of course, I criticize a lot. I had the opportunity to meet and talk to Africans before I even came down to Kenya first time. And my business partner, Moses, and me, we had a good chat for half a year before I came down the first time. So I had quite a good picture of the opportunities in East Africa, in Kenya, before I even came down there. And I knew really fast that the picture I had in my head, because of the NGOs and because of the TV commercials and all the stuff, wasn't the right picture. So for me, it's always, I always try to say, if I meet some other people here in Europe and they say, okay, let's go to Africa, the first thing I always say, listen, the first mistake we do as Europeans, a little bit arrogant, we say, okay, let's go to Africa. But if you put it the other way around, no one would say, okay, let's go to Europe. You say, okay, I want to invest in Germany, or I want to go to Spain or something like that. Let's try to do the same in Africa. Africa is not Africa. It's a big continent. It's a lot of people. It's a young population. So let's try to divide the continent. Let's try to see where can you do what. So this is one of the first things I would address to everyone who is trying to enter the African market.
All right. Thank you, Benjamin, for sharing us your perspective. I liked the fact that you encourage people to come to Africa, because I always tell people, when you are an investor, you come into Africa, you see the abundance of opportunity there is opportunity here. And so the picture has been painted, like you said, by maybe the NGO world around poverty. There is poverty, but I also believe the only sustainable way to eradicate poverty on the African continent is through business. So with your money, if you can invest in the right projects, then you'll be able to get a good return on investment, but impact the community that you serve.
I think if I can add one more thought on what you just said, because I think it's crucial that right now we take jobs away from the African market, you know. So I like to say, you know, the African dream from cocoa to chocolate, you know. So we take the cocoa, we take it to Europe or Asia and produce the chocolate there. Why not trying to build finished products in Africa, you know? You have a growing economy everywhere in Africa. You have a population, a young population, which is looking for jobs. And the problem I see, if we take away jobs and don't give the young people opportunities in their home country, immigration will be a problem, you know? So, because if they have no jobs, you have no future and you move. And we should encourage people, empower them to stay in their home countries and try to give them jobs where they are, you know?
All right, thank you, Benjamin. I totally agree. It's about creation of jobs. It's about creation of wealth. And if those opportunities are in Africa, it will make not a lot of people want to immigrate to other countries, and they'll just be going for leisure and travel for business, but they would make Africa of their home very productive. So I agree with you. It's all about creation of jobs. So if you are an investor who, like I said, have money and you want to create impact, there is a variety of deals that you could do. You have to know, and I liked what you said, Benjamin, you have to know the country, you need to know the region. Africa is a continent of 1.2 billion people. It's not homogeneous. So you actually have to be able to understand that to make the right investment decisions. And I know there's someone who'll be talking to us about market research. So that to me is very important. Before I go to the next speaker, I don't know if it's Mr. Santi who wanted to say something.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I just want to the last sentence of Benjamin has that I know personally also. The question is how to make the production in Africa. We have to take a consideration. My personal experience that we have to take consideration that is challenging. It's a big opportunity because the market is growing, because the middle class is growing, because the local demand is growing. But we have to take a consideration that in production aspect, the manufacturing aspect, that's some costs that are not competitive with the rest of the world. So we have some more administrative costs. The labor cost is low, but the productivity has to increase. And the energy cost is quite high. This is the big pity, because a country that exports potential energy has to reduce the energy cost. And this is one of the key of my presentation. So we have to consider that even now we need some, we can say, protective or protection from the SADC or from the African Union or from the government to protect the local indigenous company. It's something that we cannot put as a milestone, but if we want to be competitive at the beginning, we have to protect a little bit, because otherwise we'll never be competitive with the big competitor that is Asia, because Asia for sure has different costs, and that's only a big Indian Sea that connects Africa to Asia. That's why we have to be focused on the costs that are, unfortunately, it's more expensive to do some production in Africa rather than in Asia, but with a good partnership, public and private, we can boost the local industry as we are doing in some country, and we are boost the local industry to make competitive eventually also in the future.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Santi, for that. I really like what you're saying. Government has to play its part, needs to create an enabling environment, but support local businesses. And there's an issue around cost. So every business person knows you want to at least manage your cost. So that is very critical. And I think this is why these conferences are very important and information sharing, because government needs to understand what the business people, what is ailing this environment. So it stops investors from coming in. So thank you again for that. I'd like to go in and welcome Ms. Claire Dawai, sorry. She is, I believe she's on the call. I don't see her on video, but I believe she's joined us. She is the CEO at the Sub-Saharan Council of Entrepreneurs. She's all about entrepreneurship. And what I would like you to do, Claire, Claire, can you hear me? Hello, Claire.
Hi, I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, great. So Claire, what I really would like you to talk to us about, all of us who are on this webinar, could you share with us what you believe the impact of COVID-19 has had on SMEs in Africa? All businesses have been affected, but I believe SMEs have been affected in a greater scale. And if you could also share with us why you think SMEs need more support. So because you're all about entrepreneurship, and I know you deal a lot with SMEs, could you share with us your opinion about that?
Thank you, Anne, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm glad to speak about matters that are very close to my heart. I am sorry that I'm not able to put on my video. The reason being, I'm in between meetings and I'm using very limited internet. So if I have my video on, I will not be able to articulate myself as I should. So please, my apologies. So I'm hoping what I say has meaning, and at least it convinces some of the investors that we have on this platform to see if they can do something about SMEs that come out of Africa. And please allow me to start. Now, well, in the last few months, we've had a common trend generally in African capitals. We've seen flights being cancelled. We see businesses are asking their workers to stay home. We are seeing some even curtailing employment contracts. So basically, there is a global health crisis that has seemingly not affected Africa as much as it has China and the northern countries. So Africa, for me, I would say it's more of a social and economic crisis. So, well, if we're talking about Africa in general, we're saying that Africa is facing unprecedented health and economic crisis that is threatening to throw the region off its stride. It's threatening to reverse the development progress that we have had in the recent years. It is also slowing the growth prospects that we have in the years to come. So COVID-19 pandemic has spread in almost all the parts of Africa and of the world in general. So basically, it's a health crisis that has precipitated an economic crisis reflecting disruption in production. We have seen sharp reduction in demand of commodities. We have seen tighter financial conditions and a severe decline in commodity prices. Now, when we talk about Africa, what are we talking about? We're talking about Africa is basically the entrepreneurial fabric that is mostly made up of small and medium-sized enterprises. So SMEs in Africa represent 90% of African businesses and account for 60% of formal employment. I need to repeat that. We are looking at a continent that has 90% SMEs and 60% of them representing now the formal employment. That means these 90% who are SMEs employ 60% of the employed population in Africa. So in the wake of the fact that Africa could face the first recession in 25 years, basically we're talking about a recession of 1.6% compared to the global growth rate of 3.1% in the last year alone. This alone demands that we need to support SMEs. SMEs should be a priority. It should be basically a priority development issue, not only for Africa. So even before COVID-19, basically owning an SME was challenging. I work with SMEs every day and I know the challenges that it poses. So it has been very challenging for our SMEs. Already SMEs were facing an estimated 1.5 trillion credit gap, and the pandemic is already widening that gap. So most of the micro and small businesses that have halted operations due to the inability to implement preventive health measures. So you see, if you're coming to my SME, you're telling my SME, oh no, you should have on-site lodging for your employees, you need to have sanitizers, you need to have hand washing equipment, your employees need to have periodic tests. We're talking about preventive measures that have resulted in increase in operating expenses in businesses. Remember, already my SMEs are struggling, yeah, with the 1.5 trillion credit gap. So basically, Africa exporters are also set to lose more. So we export a lot out of Africa. Basically, agriculture is our backbone of our economy. So we are talking about exporters losing more than 2.4 billion in global industry supply chain as a result of factories shutting down in China, the European Union, the United States of America. And more than 70% of this loss is caused by disruption of the supply chain linkages with the European Union. Right now, France has shut down nearly all the European countries. So we cannot forget also companies in the service sectors. I really feel it for my people in the service sectors who are hardest hit, especially those who are providing accommodation and those who are giving food services. Because of these full and partial lockdowns, they have strongly affected business operations. So if we're looking at all this, so what do we need to do? What are the solutions moving forward? Having looked at the problems that SMEs are facing right now. So basically, we just have to prepare for a new normal because COVID-19 is our new normal. If only African governments could even think of shifting the resources that they have mobilized from debt relief and international aid, we're talking about 20% of revenues. And then they move this towards financing and leveraging on technology for SMEs. You know, like 239 million Africans I know have mobiles and they're internet users. So if you can go more into digitalization and more, if we can go more into technology, we're talking about creation of e-commerce platforms. And then again, if we can strengthen the resilience of SMEs through business development services so that they can withstand future shocks and also make supply chains more open and inclusive. And we can use this crisis also to ensure that businesses become more sustainable. I know my SMEs also have been they've been screaming and crying for affordable overdraft facilities. They should be able to go and get emergency loans if they need to. And if some of them already have existing facilities, if they could have their grace periods extended, and also, of course, additional support in training, you know, legal advice, because some of them are already in contracts and in crisis. And also, the most important to me, that is close to my heart, access to markets. So for us, as a trading platform, we have, we are trying to ensure that our employees our members are able to speak as one voice so that they can dictate market prices and of course, be sustainable in whatever things that they're doing. So with this, we've come up with a one market platform where we dictate on quality and pricing to ensure that we can sustain the markets that we get access to. Having said that, mine is a plea. Yeah. Africa is very different from Europe. And I don't want to say this, I'm not rejoicing in this fact. I want to repeat what I started saying. I say that for Africa, it's more of a social and economic crisis than a health crisis. It's a form of blessing. And I'm thinking it's an opportunity to invest. We're talking about a population that are able to produce when other economies have shut down. The crisis has not hit Africa as much as it has hit Europe. We are still trying to understand why. But my farmers are able to go and farm, even with all the preventive measures that we have in place. My manufacturers are able, my processors are able to go and collect and produce. The only problem they have is that they may have the products, but they have no markets for them. So mine is a plea. If we can have more investors investing in technology, helping us with e-commerce platforms. Because right now Europe has shut down. We don't have farmers in France, farmers in Poland, or farmers in Italy doing what they do best. Why not leverage on Africa? Allow us to produce now. You know, if the money can come in, again, I like what Benjamin said. We should start processing as Africa. Take the cocoa beans, we make our own chocolates. That is the opportunity that is posed. And of course, the most important thing, the SME is very, very important to Africa. 90% of African businesses are SMEs. So if we can prioritize to support SMEs, then we have it right. Thank you, Anne.
All right. Thank you, Claire, very much for sharing your thoughts, for painting us this picture. The picture is really around opportunities. And I know the investors in Europe are all about making money, but also about impact. That's the difference between Africa and the rest of the world. The investment that you do touches people's lives. It transforms communities. And that's what you can do with the little that you have or the big investment that you do. Okay. I really liked what you said really about the 1.5 trillion funding gap. $1.5 trillion, you know? And we see that's something like Mr. Benjamin Haas was talking about. He has found a space in the startup space, right? We have Mr. Santi who has found his space in bigger mega projects. So everyone can find their space, but SME is a very critical sector to really look at. But again, one of the things that you mentioned, and I always talk about, is patient capital. When you're looking to invest in Africa, you have to be patient. You have to be patient. But as they always say, no risk, no return, and you will get that return eventually in money and in the impact that you will see and the change that you see in the businesses that you do. So you already brought about the solutions. Government has to do their part, but investors in Europe and around the world can actually find a place to be able to support. And it's the critical thing is access to markets and access to finance. For me, I say access to finance comes later because you want to have access to market first. If you're able to sell your goods and services, then you can actually grow to your business to a point where you can actually access affordable funding. But before you're able to grow your business and access market, if you go to look for funding, then you'll have a very hard time actually looking for funding because you don't have a track record. Nobody knows if you can be able to pay back, if it's debt or if it's equity. You will not be able to actually showcase that you'll be able to provide a good return on investment. So I know a lot of investors want to see that you've started doing something. So again, thank you again, Claire, for sharing the opportunity, but also the solutions that they're there if anyone is interested in supporting the SME sector, and they can always reach out to you. And we'll continue this conversation next year again at the conference in Netherlands. And with that, since I was talking about funding, I would like to welcome Mr. Dr. James Mboro. Welcome, Mr. Mboro. So Mr. Mboro is someone that I know who is really, passionate about things in Africa. Dr. James Mboro is an international director and an investor at the Profcol Finance. Is based in the United Kingdom. So, Dr. Mboro, can you share with us exactly what Profcol does? And also, because it's all about funding, right? So what types of project funds are available internationally? Because you're coming from Europe, right? What project funds are available so that businesses in Africa can be able to be ready to partake for them? Because we hear there's money, right? But are this business in Africa on the continent ready for the funding that you provide? So share with us what it is that you're doing at Profcol. Welcome, Dr. Mboro.
Thank you very much, Anne. Glad to see you again. And I'm happy to participate in this conference. Well, I think the positive thing about Africa is that everybody knows that it's the next frontier. That is for sure. And there's a lot of movement towards that. And obviously, we want to be part of it. There are, as we know, there are challenges that face Africa. and some of them have been mentioned here. So market access is one of them which has been mentioned, but we come from the point of financial access is one of the greatest problems. And obviously we have heard about the market gap, the financing gap. And also, one of the things about financing is that in Africa is that it's very difficult for SMEs. And of course, SMEs, everybody agrees, are the engines of growth. And they are prevalent in Africa. They're predominant in Africa. It's a very high percentage, I think about 7%. So we got to unblock their area of not being able to access financing. A lot of them get turned down by local institutions, financing institutions. It's like there's a saying that banks fund the ones that already have money, which is not right. I think that there should be an opportunity for even those who are struggling, like the SMEs, also to be funded. The other thing about financing in Africa generally is that it's very expensive even when you get it. When you get the financing, it's quite expensive. I'm familiar with the Kenya one because I come from there, and I know it's been very high. And I saw that yesterday that I was talking to a manager in the bank, Equity Bank, and they told me that the interest rates are ranging from 11%, which that would be like the best one, to 18%. Now they will never go to 11%. They will only go to the 18%. Believe me, and that is the better bank. I think that there are others who are going even over 20. And of course, we have this infrastructure where we have the secondary lenders who are the microfinance institutions who are charging more than that. So obviously, there's a crisis in terms of lack of funding and the expense of funding. And this is, so I'm glad that I'm in a company that we are slotting in that opportunity to help Africa in its growth. So Profco Microfinance basically was created as it's been operating locally in the UK for a number of years. So it was not going outside at all. It was just financing mortgages and commercial loans in UK. But we saw a need for internationalizing our operations so that we can reach, especially Africa. So we have, although we do finance projects in other parts of the world because of the institutions that we are engaged with we are engaged in an institution that funds the whole world. But we are focusing more on Africa. And we have got various projects in Africa. Very recently, we have got funded a project in Uganda for $30 million, and another one in Nigeria for $49 million. The Kenya one for energy sector for the $2 million. And the one in Nigeria is actually agriculture. So that's pretty good. Agriculture really is something that personally I'm very passionate about, because it really covers, very many people in Africa, creates a lot of employment. So we also found another one in Ivory Coast. So there have been a number of interventions in Africa, and this is a way to go. So there are, just in brief, won't go into details, but just in brief, we do have some financial package. So what Profco does is a financial intermediary that partners with leading investment banks and leading investors. So we have in our portfolio investors, we have equity partners, we have mutual funds, we have private equity and financial conglomerates. So that once we have a project, then we are able to sort of slot it to one of these head funders. I have to say that the appetite for Africa in terms of cross-border funding commercially has not been high, and it still has quite a long way to go, because financiers do actually appraise their risks, and in terms of risk analysis, Africa is considered still to be on the high risk, especially on the commercial side. I know on the NGO side it's a different story, but on the commercial side, funders are very, very careful, and therefore the grading for Africa is still low. But we are trying now to bring it up and to popularize the financial services. Keep in mind, some financiers are oblivious about what happens in Africa. So it's like Africa doesn't exist. It's like funding has to go to other places apart from Africa. But we are breaking this mold now. And therefore, we are looking at all projects. And in fact, I could say that we are funding all projects apart now post-COVID. There has been an effect of post-COVID, which is some cannot be funded. You cannot be funded now for hospitality project, and you cannot be funded for something in the travel industry. In the aviation, that cannot be that has been put off post for the time being. So in a nutshell, we have two programs. One which is for starts at a minimum of $5 million upwards, and then there's another one that starts from 20. It's called Extra Large Program. So that one's funds from $20 million. The interest rates are low. The interest rates start from 1% to 4.5%. And obviously, because the interest rates are low, obviously funders want volumes. They want to lend in volumes so that at least they can get more income. So that is the interest rate at 1% to 4.5%. However, there is funding where you can get 100%, where projects can get 100%. And provided they give equity, and they give equity of minimum 30%. What does that mean? That means that everything will be funded, but the funder will come in, will have a seat on the board of directors until such a time that the loan is paid. So that type of funding has no interest. It is zero interest. Okay. So on one side, it's attractive because there's no interest. On the other side, there's some people, there's some company owners that are not, we have found they're not very comfortable. Somebody else coming and sitting on their board. I don't know why. If I needed money, I don't mind somebody coming and sitting on the board and giving the money. But that's the reality, because some are family oriented and all these kind of things, but they're available. So that those are the main features. Of course, you have got the PPP one, which is a private-public partnership, more or less like the Excel one, with a low interest of 1 to 4.5%. It starts at 100 million upwards. So those are generally the kind of projects
that you do. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mboro, for sharing with us. So anyone who's on the call, who's a business person, you understand that there are options, right? So be it debt, be it equity, depending on the business. But again, if you're looking for this kind of funding, you probably want to work with a financial intermediary, which is what PopSchool is.
Let me just finish. Let me just finish on some points.
Okay.
There is also a possibility of getting funding through bonds. So we do bonds. If a company is well established, we can organize bonds, the raising of bonds. There is what we call mini bonds, which do not require a lot of regulation, and we have those that require regulation from the Finance Conduct Authority. And then at the same time, we can help companies raise an IPO, initial public offering, with the alternative investment market in the UK. If a company is well established and they want to raise capital from the public, that is also another possibility. So before I finish, the other thing I want to say is that the challenge to getting this funding from the client side is that they are not well prepared. They don't tend to be well prepared, and this is an important point. We tell them to organize proper, written business plans, and this is an area that we get some resistance in because they find it difficult, some of them, to spend money before before they get the money. And this is the difference that we notice between the European companies and African companies. European companies spend a lot of money on the initial stage, and this is an area that we should sensitize our people that they should do, because it should be completely. They should do. I mean, for a funder to fund hundreds of millions of pounds of dollars, they got to see it through a project. It got to be seen from back to back, and that can only be seen through an elaborate. It's not just this business plan that you tell your finance person to do, but it has to be a professional one. It has to be a bankable project, and done by high-placed professionals. So that is the challenge that we have, and that is a challenge that our people the mindset that our people should change so that they can access the international financing. And I would say that if they're actually able to do that, they can really convince a lot of minds about getting this financing. That is really the key that opens the doors to international financing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mboro, for clarifying all that and actually ending with the solution. If people prepare for funding, there's money, right? But you have to show the numbers, you have to show the project plan, you actually have to show that it's bankable and investable. And when businesses do that, then they will get people who are interested to look into it, do the due diligence, and make a decision whether to fund it or not. So if you're a business person who's listening in, wondering, how do I get money from investors outside Africa? They want to see it on paper. They want to understand the business so that they can be able to make a decision if they'll back the project or not. I know we're running a bit out of time and we have a few more speakers to speak, but I know Benjamin, who is, has a startup fund, has something to say about funding. Maybe I can just give you 1 minute, Benjamin, before I go on to the next speaker, because we have a lot of questions also coming in.
Yes, a quick thought on what just James said. I totally agree with you. I think a big problem which we are facing a lot of times is that teams that have an idea, which is okay, but it's not developed enough, So sometimes I feel they're asking for money just in the sake of asking for money, because in some way, okay, if I want to have success, I need money,
Exactly.
But I mean, we all know it's not all about the money, There's a lot of things you have to add to your idea, to your product, to your team, skills, network, and so on to make it, So sometimes it's what you said, it's right, because you have to prepare yourself really well, do a business plan, look at your team, and then ask for the money, because then they make it much easier.
All right.
Yeah, and I want to add something to
Benjamin.
that we do actually offer an ancillary service of preparing them for funding through preparation of that, but they have to pay for it, and it's expensive.
But like they say, for any business, you have to invest. So they have to invest in that process so that they can get the money. So thank you, James, for sharing that. And also Benjamin, it's beyond an idea. You have to develop the idea, package it well, have the right transaction documentation so a funder can go in. And I know all of you have many questions around funding. So keep writing them on the chat. I do see people writing down. We will get to you to answer these questions. But right now, I really wanted to go to Marco. I think I see Marco on the line, right? Oh, there he is. All right. So for me, this is actually very critical. And it also, I think, ties a little bit with what James was saying. So for you, you actually are the CEO of Mars Market Research, and you're based in the Netherlands. And you focus really on today, okay, let me rephrase this question. Market research is very important. Everybody knows when you're starting a business, you need to do research. I tell people that's just the beginning. You have to do research. But for you, for businesses, they know that. But as investors, and we're speaking to investors today, they're coming into Africa. They want to understand who should they go to. So I guess my question for you, Marco, today is, why should people do pre-investment market research? Why is it important for investors? And what is it that you do at Mars Market Research for them to come to you to help them on this journey to find the right businesses, the right projects that they can invest in? Welcome, Marco, and please share with us your insights.
Thank you very much, Anne, and thank you, John, for joining in this very interesting webinar. There are many questions, and I have a presentation, but to add something to the discussion about pre-investment, and especially compared to our previous speakers, we have, for instance, a business case at the moment that is a company from Burkina Faso who's looking to expand their factory because they're processing mangoes for export, and they want to invest for 2 million euros. So they wrote a business plan, very extensive, about 30, 40 pages, very good one. And then I went to some potential investors here in the Netherlands. And the problem is with COVID, they cannot travel. Because normally as an investor, you want to see, it's not only about the numbers and the words on paper, because at the end, everybody can write a very nice business plan, but it's about knowing people and seeing what they're doing. That's about trust. At the end, it's all about trust. I trust you, you trust me, we do business. So that's one of the things with COVID at the moment is the travel restrictions for many countries, also for us here in the Netherlands. So we have a very good company in mango exporting for about 20 years now, good business plan, but unfortunately at the moment we cannot invite investors to come to the factory in Burkina Faso. I have a small presentation to share. I hope it works. Oh. Yes. Is it like this? Okay, so I have a small presentation about why it's important to do market research before investing, or in fact before entering a new market. So to begin with, I set up a company in 2010 called Smes Emerging Market Research here in the Netherlands. And from the beginning, we are focusing on the MENA region and Western Africa, especially Francophone Africa. And we do a lot of market research, desk research, field. We also give management advice, training, especially partner search, also helping Dutch companies, but also more and more African companies to export to the Netherlands. Since 2012, we also have a partner office in Casablanca because our main focus is on Morocco, one of those North African countries We see much more investing also in other countries in Africa, so it's more Africa to Africa, so that's, I think, a good thing. Also, a lot of European companies use Morocco as a stepping stone for using investment and trading activities in other parts of Africa. Our main sectors are in maritime, transport, logistics, agribusiness, of course, construction, but it's a little bit difficult because many of these markets are very close and nationalistic. And we are also in trade. These are some of our clients during the last 10 years, from the private sector, from the public sector, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in the Netherlands. And since recently, we also are an agent here in the Netherlands for Rita Trading, who is a Moroccan exporting company, fresh fruits and vegetable and fish. Glosat, who's exporting mangoes, other tropical fruits to the Netherlands. And we are recently appointed as an exclusive importer of wine. Really good wine. Even it's wine from Morocco, which is not for everybody well known, but they are doing it for about 2,500 years already, making wine in Morocco. And this is one of the private domains in the country, and we are importing it to sell in the Netherlands. And based on these experiences, it is a big challenge to do business between Europe and Africa. Both ways, by the way. So if either we go from Africa to Europe or from Europe to Africa, doing a trade, it's on paper, it seems easy, but at the end, it is a challenge. It is, if you received, well, if you made it, it feels very good, but it takes a lot of time, really a lot of time, sometimes 2-3 years before you have a contract. I'll tell you a bit about the perceptions, and Benjamin has already mentioned some, about how much of our clients in the Netherlands, but maybe also in other countries in Europe, look at Africa. Because when I talk about doing business in Africa, for me it's most important first to talk about the country, the continent itself, before I can even talk about my own services I can offer to a client, or about the business opportunities in an individual country in Africa. So the problem is with Africa is, among many entrepreneurs outside Africa, it's always positive, but sometimes it's always negative, positive, and not so much in between. But at the end, it is what's in between. So there are many opportunities, but at the same time, we have a lot of challenges as well. And for instance, at the moment, we have, unfortunately, a crisis in Ethiopia in the north. But you can also look at the other side. There's a big country in Ethiopia, so you don't have to be in the north to do business, say, for instance, in the capital of Ethiopia. But on the other hand, we have a lot of tourists coming from Europe visiting Africa, and you only look at a very bright, shiny way to the continent, and they go on holiday, and they are there for 3 weeks, and then suddenly they want to do something importing, exporting to Africa. But of course, like for instance, cheese, they see there's no much cheese sold in Africa. Maybe I can sell some cheese in Africa. But the truth is, it's somewhere in between. So there are large opportunities, of course, big challenges. Other thing of Africa's perceptions is that a lot of entrepreneurs outside Africa see the continent as just one single country or marketplace. We saw that especially also with my own experiences during what we call the 2011 spring, the conflict in the Middle East, and also in some part of North Africa, for instance, Libya. And suddenly everybody told me, what are you doing in Africa? Because there's war going on in Libya. I said, well, you know, distances are quite long. So it is not one continent. This is one continent, but it's not one country. 54 countries with many different subcultures. It is really huge. It's 3 times Europe. So even within one single country, doesn't mean that there are some big demonstrations in the capital that is a problem in every part of the country. So that is something why time and time and again I have to explain to my potential clients and investors and talk about Africa, is that it's huge. It's not one single entity. It's 54 different countries, and even within one single country, you have all these differences. Also, and that is something which is really important, is that if you look at the individual countries itself, for instance, measured by GDP per capita, often known as the income, you see many differences between, for instance, Mauritius or Gabon and Malawi. So you have to keep that in mind, that everything on the outside looks the same, but if you look more closely, you see many, many differences between all these individual countries. You have to take that into consideration when you want to select an individual country. Also, what's often used is what we call the Ease of Doing Business Index from the World Bank. And that is a nice indicator. It's all very generic, macroeconomic speaking, but to give you a little bit of an idea of how different, for instance, doing business in Mauritius is compared to Somalia or Burundi or Djibouti, whatever country. So that is one of the starting points always provide our clients when you talk about doing business in Africa, because at one point you have to start somewhere and provide some information. This one, the Ease of Doing Business Index, gives you some information about the challenges to do business there. But as you see, there are many, many other factors influencing investment opportunities. Because if you look at this graph, you see on the horizontal scale, we see the FDI stock per capita, so the investment, foreign direct investment per person. And on the vertical axis, you see the Ease of Doing Business Index. Normally, I would say when you are good in your business environment, so high on the score of Ease of Doing Business, you have a lot of investors. Yeah, because then you know that this is a good, attractive country. But that's not really is the case. So you see, for instance, Morocco or Mauritius are quite high on the Ease of Doing Business Index, but relatively, they have not much FDI stock per capita. You can see also here, for instance, Equatorial Guinea or Gabon or Congo and Libya, they're all countries who are very strong in exporting their raw materials, resources. And the Seychelles is a different case. We can talk about it for hours. So knowing this, that taking into account the perceptions of many investors and traders, exporters, importers in, for instance, the Netherlands have on Africa, you have to dig deeper into this marketplace, what we call Africa. So what do they know? Well, normally when you talk about with European companies about going to Africa, they see a lot of business obstacles, and mainly something to do with all these administrative measures. And I know because when I was importing the wine, it is such a hassle. It's easier to import tomatoes than wine. The same with if you go exporting to Africa, all these difficult, especially in logistics and transport, is a hassle. And then even when we are based in Morocco, it's only 15 kilometers from Spain, but then even then it's quite a challenge to do business with European buyers. So the opposite side, so European companies, when they do exporting, they see a lot of challenges. And one of them is not only administrative measures and the knowledge about the customs duties, etc., but also finding the right partner, because most of them are looking for local partners. So there are basically four management approaches from a lot of these foreign companies who want to go into Africa. Each have their pluses and their minuses. For instance, you have companies who have just one strategy and say our home strategy is the best, and we copy paste it to Africa, what we call the ethnocentric orientation. And the other one is polycentric. So you work with a lot of local managers, which is really interesting because every country is different. And Morocco is not the same as Senegal. Senegal is not the same as Ethiopia or South Africa. The other one is geocentric orientation, in which you are actually working like a global network. You're just looking around the world for the best managers. And if it's somebody from Vietnam who has a lot of knowledge about custom duties, and then maybe it's something for him to work in Burundi, or someone from South Africa could be very good in working in Congo. So that's geocentric orientation. If you look at the regiocentric orientation, which a lot of companies are doing, Africa is divided in, for instance, North Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, and it has one office for such a region. So it depends on many factors which one of these four approaches a company take. And before you start doing your research, you have to ask the CEO or the management of such a company or such a client, what is your approach? Because if you talk about, for instance, a manager with the ethnocentric orientation, and you want to give a strategy which is more like regio-centric, there's a difference in approach. So, in fact, are three market entry strategy for many companies, I think even inside Africa, but I'm talking about from Europe to Africa. It's just exporting, directly or indirectly. Most common is directly exporting, just ship a container full of goods, or importing a container full of goods from Africa to Europe, or vice versa. And otherwise, it's more like indirect, looking for a local agent. Not so much the second and third one. That means that you are using a contractual entry strategy. So you work with, for instance, licensing or franchising, or even, which is most expensive one, setting up a joint venture. So most of the companies from Europe, especially when they go for the first time to Africa, we call them also startups, are looking for direct exporting, or they're looking for a local agent or distributor. Why? Because it reduces much of their risk. Because many of these companies from Europe, it's for them the first time they go to Africa, and they don't know much about the continent. They know something, yeah, which I showed before. There's some kind of perception. So what they do, they look for a local agent. But the big question, of course, is where can you find such a local agent or a local distributor for your products? Well, normally you have two types of research. We call them to collect data, and we call them desk research and field research. And what we see here is that most of the companies, when you talk about understanding the market, they want to know something, say, for instance, about the macroeconomics. So the GDP or GDP per capita, or interest rates, or how is the banking sector working. You can add that with, for instance, some research, with field research, interviews with potential distributors or potential buyers in Africa, to understand the market. And that is normally what you present to your clients, especially, say, before COVID. You could travel to Africa and do all this research. And nowadays, like this one webinar, it's more like online. And there we see that the focus is much more on looking for a partner. It's like this afternoon, looking for an investment partner. And not so much about exactly knowing how big or small the market is, but it's much more about looking for a partner. And that we see that most of the companies are actually, that is what they're looking for a partner. So not so much about how big or small the market is, but who is a potential buyer, or who is my potential local partner for which I can set up an agency or a distributorship. So we do it by doing workshops, going trade fairs, trade missions, or doing online webinar. So that is primarily, especially during COVID, the focus of research. As you maybe a lot of people know, collecting data in Africa, that is sometimes really a headache, especially reliable data which is up to date. And it differs much per country. I know, for instance, I compare, for instance, Morocco with Algeria collecting on data. It's much easier to collect data in Morocco than in Algeria. It is in Senegal, for instance, much more easier to work with, collect data to work with than in Burkina Faso. So many of our clients, they want very detailed data at the micro level, the company level, or sometimes at the industry level. But the time and amount you have to be spent is quite high, because it's really difficult to get this data out, especially if you cannot travel to the country itself, do some investigation. So what we see now is that people, my clients, say, okay, I want to have, say, collected data on the highest level, but I want to pay on the lowest level. So there's always a discussion that they want the best data for the lowest price. I think it's typically Dutch, but maybe also for a lot of other countries. Get the best for the less. And there we see that you need a local partner, especially now, to collect your local data. And that's also why we see, for instance, in discussion with African partners, that they cannot travel to Europe for travel restriction out to COVID. They ask us to do, say, become the local partner in the Netherlands to help them find potential buyers there. So there we see a changing in attitudes from both sides. So instead of just taking an airplane and start traveling around the world, going to Europe or Asia or Africa, whatever, they now stay at home and try to do business with a local partner in that particular marketplace. Only issue here is that a lot of African companies are not used to work online. So as an example, in Morocco, only 30% of the company do have a website, and the rest don't have a website, because normally you do business face-to-face. We call that P2P, yeah? So person to person is much more important than just showing off what a nice website you have. Now with travel restrictions in many parts of the world, it is very important to have a website. And that, I think, is one thing a lot of companies are missing, because when you want to sell something in Europe, the first thing a company do is I look for a website, see what company it is, who is behind the company, and what are the products, especially when you talk about exporting fresh fruit and vegetables. So it is very challenging now, because also in Africa, many companies have to switch to much more online selling instead of visiting people face to face. I think even after COVID, it will be one of the main strategies for many companies to do online business. So this is my short presentation. Thank you, Anne.
All right, thank you, Marco, for sharing an elaborate just viewpoint of really why market research is important. I know it's very critical. I always tell business people that making informed decisions, you need data, right? So, but in Africa, it's kind of hard to do that, and that's why they need somebody like yourself to actually walk through that, make sure that you get the right data. And it's also best to actually have you know, a local partner like you mentioned, but also where do you find that local partner? Today we were supposed to have somebody, the president from the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, unfortunately was not able to join us. But again, those are places that you could probably find local partners who can help you on your strategy into Africa. But definitely market strategy is important for you. And of course, if you're in business, having an online presence is very critical. Digital transformation of your business is very important as we go into the new normal, because the first thing anyone does is Google, right? So you need to be able to showcase yourself there. And as you put your information out there, more people will be able to join you. And I do have, I do have to say, because of time, we have our last speaker, an amazing woman. You know, all of you have been listening to different viewpoints around investing in Africa. But today we have a lady, her name is Kate Kibara. She's the CEO of Kate Organics. She's a woman in business in Kenya who's done amazing things. You know, most of the time when people think about women in business, they think about micro business, but this is a lady who has shown us that she can be able to do it and run in the same, you know, with men. And you actually, if you come to Kenya and you go to all our supermarkets, our grocery stores, you will actually see her products there. So I want to welcome Kate. Thank you for joining us today. We can't wait to hear your insights about your experience, because I would like you to share what are the unique opportunities and what are the unique challenges that you face as a woman in business in Africa? Because like I said, usually the picture of a woman in business is not you, but you've shown us gender should not limit you from doing great things. So share with us so that we can understand Kate Organics, and anyone who is, you know, in Europe who wants to invest in an amazing business can be able to invest in your business. So welcome, Kate, and share with us more about Kate Organics. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Angatia, and an honor or pleasure to be here this evening or this afternoon in Kenya. And like she has said, my name is Kate Kibara. I'm a clinical nutritionist and a colon hydrotherapist. And I run various organizations. I'm a woman entrepreneur in Africa, and I'm glad my presentation today will be talking about opportunities and challenges of women in Africa. I started my organization a few years ago, around 2013 there, and I agree, or I like what everyone has said. I liked what Benjamin was talking about, that why are we not doing value-added products? I like the way Mark was talking about funding, because this is something that I've gone through. as Gates Organics as myself. And my presentation is about the opportunities that we have as women and the challenges. Some will be part of what I've gone through, but I'm going to make it as a whole, as a continent, as what we go through as women if you have a business here. And I'm talking about myself. I'm in Kenya, I'm based in Kenya. And I have a few slides to share as I talk, as I present, as I do my presentation. If you give me a second. I don't know if my presentation is up.
Yes, it is. You can start presenting.
Okay, thank you. Like I said earlier, I'm glad to be part of this symposium about investing in Africa, which I think is a big opportunity for all of us. And I like the way Cynthia was talking about why are we not doing it in Africa? It's not a health thing. It's not a social thing, it's a health thing. And I believe that if we put our minds together, we'd be able to come out and bring up women. And I'm talking about, because my topic today is about opportunities and challenges for women in business in Africa. And so before I get into that, we know that a lot of women entrepreneurship in Africa is a central aspect for the economic development and public policy. We try a lot to get up there, but we're still not getting there because of a lot of things that I'm going to discuss. But like I said, I'm Kibara, and I'm a woman entrepreneur, and I run various organizations. I'm a clinical nutritionist and a colon hydrotherapist. And through my clinical nutrition aspect, I was able to form a lot of organizations. And my first one was a consultancy firm where we talk about healthy living and wellness, which I think is ideal or important for us in Africa or in the world, where you need to eat healthy, you need to eat healthy food. And this is because a lot of degenerative diseases are on the rise, and we need to know we are already organic in nature. We already eat healthy food, so that's why I started my consultancy firm. But my main business is called Gates Organics Limited. And Benjamin was talking about processing and value addition of all that. We grow, process, pack, distribute organic products, not only in Kenya, in East Africa, we also do it in Europe. And what we do, we work with certified organic farmers across East Africa, where we have farmers in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. And most of my farmers are single women, mothers or widows. And this is because, as I'm going to bring out my presentation, I found that there was a gap when it comes to women, especially the widowed and especially women who are family farmers. They did not know what to do, what next. So Gates Organics was part of like building them or making them have a livelihood, overcome poverty, and just live healthy, because we were able to come up with projects in East Africa where they would grow the produce. There's also someone else was talking about the markets, and we're also able to market their produce. And I like what our previous presenter was talking about. We can grow the produce from them, and that I believe that because I know most of the produce that goes out there comes from Africa, so we are already entitled to do that. Apart from that, I own an NGO known as Organic Action Network in Kenya that promotes farmers, especially in Kenya, and these are smallholder farmers or small-scale holder farmers to grow produce and to get market, because we can grow the produce. We are already, is it by nature, or we can actually do it, but we only do or deal with organic produce. And also have a virtual health club where we bring together people. so that they can talk about healthy eating, healthy food. And this virtual health club has really helped us grow, has really helped grow the network where such that you're not just growing for yourself, you're growing food for your family, you're growing food for your health, you're growing food for the community. It works very well. And apart from that, we are based in Nairobi, Kenya, but we also have an office in Austria, because we also tapped on the export market, because they need a lot of this organic, clean food, like I call it. And that's what basically I do. But my presentation today, and those are some of my products. We do a lot of herbal teas, we do juices, we do honey, and so many of those things. But my presentation today is on opportunities and challenges of women in business in Africa. I'm going to use myself as an example, or not an example, but the experiences I've gone through, having to run a women-led business, having to go through all the challenges of value addition, having your product on the shelf because you're all in all the supermarkets in Kenya and some parts of Europe, having to go through all that to ensure that you can, to show that you can actually have a product, you can actually package what you're producing for it to be on the shelf. But some things that I did on the background, I was looking at statistics of women in Africa, and I looked at Africa CEO Forum, and I saw that it's only 5% of women who are CEOs, only 5%. And as much as women are an impact for all this, you know, it talks about influence in business. It talks about women being in boards. We are only doing 5% as CEOs. And again, it also says, this forum that I was looking at, this research said that if women were brought together, if all these women who are in boards, they make like 20% profit higher than the other industries. And also the Boston Consulting Group, I went through their research, which is also a latest research that said that if men and women participated equally, the global economy, the global GPD would grow by 6%. And this shows that it can be done. It is something that women need to be empowered. It is something that women need to know, or if they are put in that structure, then it means that not only are we elevating poverty, we are making livelihoods better, and we are bringing the economic aspect together. I also looked at an NDP report that was done, research that was done a few years ago, where they did all the research about women in business in Africa, and they talked about the gender inequality in sub-Saharan Africa has an average loss of 95 billion per year. And I liked the previous presenter who was talking about we are producing, we're the ones who have all that. And when I talk about Kate's Organics, most of the farmers are women. Most of the one who is going to go to the farm and farm is the woman, but they do not have that capacity, or they're not empowered to be the ones who are in charge, because after they farm, when you go by the produce, is the man who'll be in charge. So that makes it a problem a little bit. Another statistics that I also got, I had said this earlier, that 5% of CEOs are women in Africa. And I think this is a small percentage. Looking at women are natural entrepreneurs. Women are born built, can I say leaders? They multitask, they do a lot of things, so they bring out so much. So if women were included in business, if women were acknowledged in business, it means that not only what the NDP is talking about, the 95% billion loss, would do so much, because we are a lot of us who are in the farm, a lot of us who are working, and a lot of women have actually come out. And if you look at the average of women to men, women are much more, and a lot has changed. That in the old days, we used to have, it was only the men who spoke, but right now women are also talking, and they actually have a positive influence in the society. And we talk about, I'm not a politician, but the research also talked about 25% of the cabinet are women. it's only 24% of women who participate in all those things. Senior managers are only 29% women, 36 promotions only to women. And this means that there's something that is lacking. And if this thing is tapped on, and I'm talking about a woman in business in Africa, it's a great, huge opportunity for the other women, for other women in Africa, for them to like floral and grow and become what they want to become in Africa. I liked the previous presentation that was talking about a lot of the SMEs in Africa. I'm an SME, and it's true. We work so hard, we're bringing out, and we need also to be strengthened or supported so that we are also able to merge and show that we can actually do it, because it's doable. It's something that can be done. As I go to my topic, I was supposed to talk about challenges, and I'm going to refer this, connecting it to what I do and also what I've seen out there. Challenges for women in business in Africa. The first one is limited access to funding. You find a lot of, I think research that I saw or read shows that only 30% of women in the sub-Saharan Africa have access like to banking or have access to financing. But this is not only the case. You have a lot of tendership that is male-based, or a lot of it's. I think there's a way that it's only the men who will get these tenders. So when there's that lack of access to funding, where a woman has an idea, you want to do something, you come out there, but there's no funding because, of course, there's limited access to funding, which I know had been discussed earlier. You find that it becomes difficult for a woman to get there, to be strong and decide, I'm going to do it, but they cannot do it because they do not have the funding. But the funding is not the most important thing, because you can start without funding. But again, if you have a bit of backup, it makes you get to your goal. It makes you get to where you want to be. Something else that I noticed, we have a lack of a network support. But as we go on, as you see in the recent years, we have a lot of women networks, a lot of women things, but that network support is not supported by men. And if it is not supported or incorporated in the other aspects of networking or in businesses, so you find that women are kind of also alone, but that lack of network support does not empower a woman to grow in business or to get into business. Yet women are ready to get into this business. We also have the aspect of male domination. And this, I would say, it's a profile that is traditionally cultured, where you have the man is better, the man can do better. So a woman feels that they're the second person. But this male domination, as much as it's there, it needs to come out that also a woman can be there. A woman can make her role at home. A woman can be a wife. She can have the children. She can take care of the home, but she's also able to work outside that environment and become that leader. There's also that unfair and inclusive policy. A lot of policies in Africa are not women friendly. Maybe they're becoming women friendly today, but not most of them are. So if the policies do not fare the woman, it becomes very hard for this woman also to get out. I'm talking about experience as well. Starting Kate's Organics was easy, a business name, have a product, but getting to the business bit was not easy, because there's all these limiting factors where even if you go to a meeting, you're a woman, so you're not so important, or you're not in a board, or you're not, it's all these small things that make you feel that, oh, maybe I should not be doing this. We also have self-limiting factors from women. A lot of women may have the will, but maybe deep down, they may not believe in themselves, because maybe there's no mentorship, maybe there's no empowering, maybe there are no platforms. But I'd like what Cynthia says, that she has a platform where they work with a lot of SMEs, and I'm sure a lot of SMEs, they are women. But that encouragement makes a woman know that whatever I'm doing is not in vain. I'm bringing out something that will bring food on the table. It's going to support my family. And I'm not competing with my husband or any male dominance around me. I'm only doing it for myself. And then we also have the social norms and cultural barriers. You're a woman, you need to be at home, you need to be in the kitchen. Something I experienced as an entrepreneur is that a lot of people looked at me that, why are you coming out so much? You know, you need to like slow out a little bit. And I don't believe, I don't know if I don't believe in that, but I don't think, why should you slow a little bit if you have something that you feel within you? We are a lot of women in Africa with talent. We are a lot of women in Africa who have ideas. We are in the boards of so many organizations. So it's what we bring out. If it came out well and it was equally, there's no gender inequality and all those things, would actually make a difference. And I believe in this. I believe in this in my heart. I believe in this from what I've gone through experience. So basically, those are some of the challenges that we experience. There may be more than this, but these are the main ones, especially limited access, lack of a network support, the male domination, which is all over. I don't know if it is in the world or Africa alone. There's limiting factors and the social norms. Then I go to the positive part, the opportunities for women in business. We have talent. I have talent and I love what I do. I love waking up every morning. I love talking about health. I love going to the farm and looking at what they are doing. I love walking to a supermarket and seeing my product on the shelf. So the talent is there. Women have talent, and we are a workforce. We are something that can bring out something. But another opportunity that we have is that the attitudes towards women, which I like today, has changed. When you look at our parents, maybe 20 years ago, they did not have so much say or so much, maybe it was 50, maybe not 20, so much say. And right now, women can speak, women can talk, women can see. So the attitude towards women has changed from situation, and this is very positive for us. We also have accessible technology. We can use social media. It means we are a good communicator. Like I'm speaking right now, any woman today can come out. If she has it in herself, she can come out and speak on what she's doing. She owns an orphanage. She can come out and talk about it. She's starting some farm work. She knows what to say. This is not a problem anymore. Women can actually speak for themselves because they know what they believe in. Today, as we speak, the finance and lending institutions are more open to giving money. From my experience, when I started Case Organics, nobody wanted to give me anything. They said, no, you know, what are you talking about? But I think right now it's more open. A woman goes to an idea, with an idea to a bank or an institution. I think when they look at the framework and the strategy, they're able to know that this is something that's doable, this is something that's going to work. And when you look at the social impact, if you look at the sustainability, that it means that it is something that a lot of banks are looking for today. Banks are calling you to fund you or this other organization. And then I think there is greater social equity for women compared to previous generations. Women are being included in things. We're being made to speak more. We're being told they can do this, this, and that. We're being included, and this is good because a woman's voice is very strong. It's not because a woman is competing with a man, it's because that they have much more insight. I don't know if it's an instinct, but there's something that comes out of a woman that comes out in a very nice way, and they know how to actually put it in place. So I like the fact that that equity compared to before is coming back in a very positive way. And then there's mentorship. I talked about a challenge where women do not have mentorship, but this is an opportunity. Even if it is the men mentoring us, we don't have a problem. We have a network where we're being mentored. Okay, Case Organics, you have this business, you have this network or this frame of network of these people or this platform that is going to network you and empower you and mentor you, because a lot of mentorship is also important when you're starting business in Africa. Because of the small things that come along the way, when you start the business, it's so easy. Business name, have a product, or whatever you're doing, have it exposed out there. But the mentorship is important. You need, and especially a woman, to grow you from step to step. This is what I did, is, role models to work with you. And then it is important as an opportunity to patronize or promote women-led businesses. And I've seen a lot of this in Africa. A lot of African companies or organizations are promoting women-based businesses in terms of talking about them, showcasing women, sharing their stories, saying what they have done, so that the other women can see what is happening. And a woman out there in Africa can be encouraged that, oh, this one did that, I can also do it. Because it's not something that has to be forced out of you, but through the mentorship and the promotion of the Women Business Network or Women in Business, it makes you feel like you're part of them. You're encouraged to do it and you're part of it. And then I think also as we look at this, instead of having male domination, the gender inequality, what about partnering with women in business? What about working with a business that is already there, or trying to see, okay, she's doing that, what can we help her with? And I think if women are included, there's so much that can go out there. There's so much that can be done. And unfortunately, which I've seen in my experience, a lot of boards in Africa, even in Kenya, do not include or have a very low percentage of women because of the limiting factors or the challenges I've previously talked about. But this is something that needs to be brushed away. Where can you try and see that it's workable? I'm a woman in business, I'm doing my business, and a lot of us are doing it. I'm not the only one, so it is something that can be done. So in conclusion, I like what Cynthia said, and I'm going to back up. Women, the African continent has the most female entrepreneurs. We are the ones. But we are not recognized for our contribution. We may go through our challenges, you know, and this goes everywhere in the world. It's not only Africa. Not having adequate financing. We don't have, like people say, the businesses are not adequate or credible. We don't have access to management roles, but it still stands that female entrepreneurs are the way forward, or we were included, would make so much change in Africa, would make so much change. And this I'm talking from conviction. It would be the best thing that he ever did. Thank you. My name is Kibara.
All right, thank you, Kate, for just sharing with us your experience as a woman in business, the challenges, the opportunities. And I know for a lot of investors who are here and are listening to your story, can see that you have been able to overcome that. But there are very many women on this continent who need support and investments. And so the opportunity here for all investors, I always say, if you look at a business, but when you look at a business, there are women businesses, the businesses, the family businesses, or businesses run by men. You want to have a diversified portfolio of different businesses, but look at the woman, because I can tell, even like when Kate was talking, her value chain is full of women, from the production to the packaging, to the marketing, to the branding. So if you support a woman in business, you support our community. So that is something that I'm very passionate about, women in business. So when Kate is talking, I was like, I'm very, very, very happy. But there are very many opportunities. The opportunities for small businesses, opportunity for mega projects, medium-sized businesses. It depends. For you as an investor in Europe and you want to come to the continent to invest, there are opportunities. It just depends on what you're looking for, and then the role, like I said, for something like this webinar, this conference that we're doing in 2021 in Netherlands, is to showcase all these opportunities and real life stories of African entrepreneurs who are doing great things on the continent. And with that, I think there are very many questions that are on the chat. So I'll go ahead and do that. But before I do that, I see a hand up. I see Joy Zenz. She has a hand up. If you could just go ahead and ask your question real quick.
Yes.
If it's someone particular, go ahead and state it. And then I'll go into the questions, because we really want to end and we have only about 15 minutes. So I'll appreciate you just saying the question real quick.
Yes, hello, you can hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Yes, hi, my name is Joyce and I'm the founder of African Women in Europe. And I agree with Kate, that's the way to go, especially the African women. I'm in Europe, in Germany, and I can tell you the African women, we have another blood. and entrepreneurship is the leader. And the point I'm here is in regards to investment, because I've been hearing from John Boro and also Saint Soan, sorry for mentioning the name wrong, and it's in regard to saying how important it is for you to have well-documented paperwork for you as investors to consider our African business people back at home. So my question here is that, have you ever considered diasporans? Diasporans are a very important I can't say, how do I say, it's a very new tool there that should be really maximized. And why I'm saying this is because recently we have been involved as diaspora in Germany by in the government of Germany. They have involved diaspora supporting the business people on the ground. Because they realize the potentials of and the skills of the African diaspora and what they bring to on the table. So what they're doing, they're partnering the diaspora and with the business people on the ground and making sure that they're helping them with these skills that you're talking about. They need to write their proposal properly. They need to write their paperwork properly. And this is something that is untrapped and have been ignored for a long time. And I'm one of the campaigners around it, supporting the diaspora to be a bridge between the two, especially for the investors. Especially some of the investors don't know especially where to invest it on the ground. Good, you go to the government, definitely they will give you the right positions, but I think you really need to get ground on the ground. And so how are you involving, have you ever considered the diasporans as partnership in the investment portfolio?
All right, thank you, Joy, for that question, and it's very specific to those who are funding businesses. Have you considered working with the African diaspora who are in Europe and around the world, as we have this discussion about investing in Africa and people in Europe finding opportunities in Africa? Have you considered working with the diaspora? So go ahead, and James, if you can just give us a real quick answer, then we can go to the next question. We'll be really appreciative about that. Diaspora engagement. You're on mute, James.
I was going to ask Kate the same question about the diaspora, whether you've considered marketing to the diaspora, because it looks like you got very good products and your package, the packaging looks nice. So is there anything preventing you from just landing them in our supermarket?
I can answer?
Mm-hmm. Sure, go ahead, Kate.
James, I already have an office in Austria. We're already packaging it in Europe. Mm-hmm. Currently, we're distributing it in European countries and the Scandinavian. I know in the UK, I'm not yet there, but I'll be there soon because I'm talking to a few people.
You're welcome.
Great. So it's great to hear that Kate is already in Europe. She's not in the UK yet, but she's going to get there. But definitely diaspora engagement is very important. And thank you, Joy, for asking that question. And what we're going to be doing for everyone who's joined us, all the presentations and the contacts for all the speakers will be shared to you so that you can engage with them as we continue having more webinars in regards to this conversation and the conference in 2020. Now go ahead, and I see a few questions and I hope I can go through them real quick. I do have Hezbon Ogunde who's saying, the reality is that Africa is an exporter of raw materials and a net importer of finished products. That's true. This is because of the challenge of accessing investment funding to do value addition. Most of the funding in African continent is expensive and not patient, and that is why we need a more patient capital as opposed to the short-term financing from the banks. So the question then he's asking is, how then can investors like yourselves who are on the call help the upcoming entrepreneurs like himself to access patient capital? He says he's a believer that development in Africa will not happen through donation. It will not happen through exporting raw materials either, but it will happen if we focus on manufacturing and value addition. But we'll take partners who are willing to invest here for the long haul. And his question then is, do we have these investors? So Hesbon, thank you for sharing that. I think it's been articulated by everyone and all the speakers that there is money. The question is your business, is your project ready for that funding? Yes, what you say is really critical, but the investors are there. The question is, are you ready?
And
so I don't know if anyone else wants to add something on that as I go on to the next question. James?
Can I jump on that? You talked of patient capital. That is an important term. Yes, our investors have funds which you don't pay until the third or fifth year. You don't pay until your project is up and running at all. You pay nothing. So you get funding, and then only when it starts producing, that is when you start repaying. So those are available.
All right. Thank you, James, for sharing that. There is patient capital, so you just have to find the right people to assist you with that. I guess that ties into the next question from Metaseba Salu, I hope I said it correct, who's saying, where is the best place to find investors to work with? I think James mentioned he's a financial intermediary. There are very many advisors, financial intermediaries who would understand your project and link you with the right network. So if you're looking for investors, you probably want to reach out to someone like Mr. James Boro, who can assist you with that. I guess it ties down with the next, I see Chris Chepkwait, who says, I welcome you to share your recommendations in investment. I support Hesbon, value addition is key. I think that has been answered in regards to investment. We have two people, James Boro spoke about it. Mr. Benjamin Haas talked about his startup fund. So there are options there. Again, I go back to business people and say, are you ready for the money that will be coming from you? Are you ready for that kind of investment? And I do see Hannah Abaye, who says, I agree, investing in digital economy is key if Africa is going to be competitive in the world. That is true, and I think that transformation shift has happened, especially because of COVID-19. Everyone is understanding that they need to do digital transformation in their organizations to take it to the next level. And more questions coming in. Even Jane was talking about Claire. Claire is the lady for who really supports entrepreneurs, and she says she articulated her message better. And yes, you're asking contacts to Claire, and that, like I said, will be shared to you so that you can speak to her in the organization that we're doing. There is Leanne Joroge, who says that she has a tour company based in Nairobi, in Kenya, and she specializes in agritourism, farm-to-farm tours, factory visits, and cultural exchange programs. Okay, there was no question there, but she was just stating. So all of you who are investors, the opportunities in agribusiness, we really say that agribusiness is big because I believe Africa can feed the world. Agribusiness can ensure there's food security in the continent. But even what Leanne Joroge is doing, she's saying there are tours. You can actually go to these farms and see what that is. So the opportunities when you're investing in the agribusiness ecosystem, and you cannot just limit yourself to just one thing. And I go ahead and I see sorry, I'm just going real quick because I don't want to miss anybody. But again, there was a Mr. Charles Joroge who's talking about high cost of electricity. I believe that was talked about. Africa has affordable labor, but the cost of production is high because of all other things like electricity and capital, which hinders growth. But again, that will continue being discussed, especially by government and these projects that are coming in, so that can be resolved. All right, so I keep going down and I do see more questions coming in. I see Chris Chepkoet, who says our company is in green energy and they're searching for investor funder to generate 30 megawatts for solar in Kenya. If you're interested in energy, you're invested, you want to find a project, there's a gentleman who is online who is interested in that. So I think you would then reach out to Mr. John Karegwa, who can then be able to connect with particular business who are ready for investing. And as we go towards the end, I think there is a gentleman, Abisi Raymond. He is from Abidjan in Cote d'Ivoire in West Africa. And he's talking about he's in global trading, agricultural business, financial and investment brokering services. He's in different businesses, and he promotes international trade business in Africa, and he facilitates customers exporting, importing commodities. So he's interested in working with investors like yourself. So again, that would be someone that I'm able to reach out to. Right, so with that, I will just go ahead and just have all the speakers. We had about 6 speakers today. If you could just give us your last remarks. The key here is about investing in Africa. If you just take 60 seconds to tell us your last remarks about investing in Africa, I would really appreciate that. So if we could just start off with you, Dr. James Borough. Go ahead and tell us your last remarks around investing in Africa.
I believe that there are a lot of opportunities about investing in Africa, and I think this is the right time to do it. The opportunity is there, but it is important to be able to combine what is available in Africa, which is opportunity and natural resources, and what is available in the Western world, which is capital. This needs to be brought together so that we can see projects moving.
All right, thank you. Everything needs to be brought together in order for us to see things moving. I'll go ahead to you, Kate. Last remarks about investing in Africa. What should we be looking at, and what should people know about that?
In conclusion, I would say the future is Africa. Statistics, what has been said, what has been presented. We grow a lot of produce for Europe or for the other continents out. I think we need to come up together. We need to unite together. We need to promote ourselves or bring ourselves together so that we are able to make Africa or make the continent and make women in business something that brings livelihood and alleviates poverty.
All right, thank you, Kate. I'll go ahead and ask Mr. Santi, if you're still online, if you can give us your last remarks about investing in Africa. You've been here since 2001. Let us know what it is that you'd like us to know about that. Mr. Santi? All right, as we wait for Mr. Santi, I'll go on to Mr. Marco. Mr. Marco Resma, I see that you're online. Could you go ahead and give us your last remarks to investing in Africa?
Okay, thank you very much. I would say just do it, but have a lot of patience and work together with local people. I think that's the most important one. To use local knowledge and understand that each country is different from another, but just do it. That is, use your entrepreneurial spirit and just do it.
Just do it, says the European market research person. Just do it. All right, thank you. Mr. Santi, I see you back. So could you just go ahead and give us your last remarks in regards to investing in Africa? We'll appreciate that. Give you 60 seconds. What do you need to know about that?
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the question. Well, we can say it was challenging in terms to be in this period. Continuing keep business in Africa was difficult, but I think that to be resilient in this period that will pay for the future. For sure, we assisted to a lot of people, a lot of companies that left Africa. Some for the risk of the COVID and to don't trust to the the safety system, the health system, and is reasonable. Some because they had international, we can say international standard, and they couldn't stay here. So some of the investors they left, but we consider that will remain and keep pushing and for sometimes reorganize also the housings and cutting some costs, but especially don't lose your human resources as we does, because we are more than 110 people only in Mozambique, and we didn't lose the resource, human resource that is the real gold, the real diamond of Africa. So we will have a benefit for the future. 100% we will have a benefit for the future. We are sure about.
Thank you, Mr. Santi. So if you're looking to invest in Africa, be patient, be resilient, and take care of the human resource. So go ahead and end with Mr. Benjamin Haas. I see you're on right now. Give us your last remarks. If you're looking to invest in Africa, what should you be thinking about?
First of all, you shouldn't listen to the NGOs. You should listen to the people, to the African voice. And the other way around is, I think, also even more important, that I would love to invite the Africans to speak up for their continent, and don't let the public and don't let the NGOs tell your story. Tell it yourself, and don't make Africa a missionary thing. You know, it's a continent of opportunities.
Great continent of opportunities. You've had that from Mr. Benjamin Haas, and he talked about listen to the African voice, and I'm very glad that we had a mix of the European and Africans representing us on this webinar, and we'll continue to have that, and there are other webinars we'll have as we walk through the journey towards the Invest in Africa 2021 conference in the Netherlands. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it to Mr. John Karego for any last remarks before we do the vote of thanks. John, welcome. You're on mute, we can't hear you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. We had a very productive time. I want to take this opportunity to thank the speakers. Very, very productive session. We've learned a lot. What I gather from this conference is money is there. Let nobody tell you there are no resources. Money is there. All you need is the will, and put that in order, in paper, you know, make your business investable, and the opportunities are there. And I realized this living in Europe, there's a lot of money. People don't know where to put it. So the opportunities are there, and I believe that's the way to go. We're going to have 2 more webinars before the conference in Amsterdam. And the second webinar, probably in January, is going to focus on opportunities in real estate, agribusiness, diaspora investing, energy, and fintech, technology and fintech. These are the upcoming opportunities for investments. So the idea is to continue this conversation, and then we will have more and real investors to meet in Amsterdam, where you have a chance to cut deals, and hopefully then you can expand and grow your business and create jobs for people. And that's the way we want to do things. Thank you very much, Anne, for moderating this session. We had a very, very productive time, and I'm sure everybody has taken something from this meeting. God bless you. God bless Africa. Asanteni. Of course, it's people from Abidjan, Congo, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Mozambique. Thank you very much, and let's keep the conversation on the fire burning.
Right. Thank you all again for joining. I won't say anything. Mr. John Karego has said it all. Thank you. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao. Good night.